Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's event. We're going to have a wonderful conversation today about innovating downtown. And my name is Nick Lilly. I'm the current executive director of the Downtown Business Association. My privilege to play host today for a phenomenal panel of individuals. We have His Worship Mayor Don Iveson joining us today, Nicole Janssen from AltaML, and Tom Anselmi from Oilers Entertainment Group, who are going to be taking us through, I think, a fantastic and crucially important discussion about the future of our downtown community and how we can move through COVID and beyond and come out of this in hopefully a stronger form. So today's discussion will take place over the course of the hour. We're very excited to then have a range of conversation, back and forth between the panelists, and have some additional questions coming in from our different sponsors who have contributed here today. Before we get to that, I do want to acknowledge that while we might be online today, Downtown Edmonton is located on Treaty 6 territory, and we respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant downtown community. Also want to pay acknowledgement to our sponsors who have made today possible for us in a large respect, and that's Kingston Ross Pasnak LLP, who has deep roots within our downtown community, continues to do great work in support of their clients and our community as a whole. The Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, who continues to advocate for our amazing business community here in Edmonton, and the Canadian Urban Institute, who is joining us today as part of CUI times Local, which is a series of week-long virtual residencies in cities across Canada. And they're kicking that off with Edmonton, as they rightfully should. And that long-standing conversation will be really engaging with various different stakeholders and trying to identify the most pressing challenges, but also the right local solutions to some of those challenges that we're needing to kind of work through here over the course of this pandemic. So there will be a little bit more information by all means for people to check out, and then some additional events throughout the week that you can certainly engage with the Canadian Urban Institute as we wrap up here today. But we only got an hour, so I definitely want to jump in and ask some questions of this incredible group here of community leaders. And then maybe I'll start with you, Mayor Iveson. Obviously, first elected as mayor in 2013, but you recently announced that you're getting out of the game and won't be looking to extend beyond this term. And while it's still a ways to go, it's never too early to start talking about legacy. So I think within your tenure, you've spoken about building a new economic future for Edmonton and the development of an innovation corridor through our downtown specifically. So how would you characterize the progress made to date, and what does success look like by the end of your term?
Well, thanks, Nick, and thanks to Tom and Nicole for sharing the stage here, and thanks to Mary Rowe and the folks from the Canadian Urban Institute. It's that we do a lot of great work with them at the national scale with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and they're not just people in the DBA in Edmonton, but in downtowns across this country's great metropolitan centers. They're passionate about many of the same things, so I'm really glad to welcome the Canadian Urban Institute folks. To your question, maybe I'll hazard a sports metaphor. I'm not off the ice yet. It's still the third period, and it's essential here. We feel like we're down a couple of goals, so I'm going to go hard. Don't worry about that. I'm not hanging them up just yet. Though I'm uncomfortable always with this conversation about legacy, I think anyone who tries to establish their own is doing it wrong, and I think it's too early for that. But one of the things that I've definitely been passionate about is downtown revitalization generally, going all the way back to my election to council in 2007. And I think we've done so much work in this city over the last 4 terms to really turn around downtown with a variety of investments, include, obviously the showpieces in Ice District, district, but the streetscaping, even the sewer upgrades that make it possible for us to look to the goal of doubling the population of downtown on the residential side again, so that we have 24/7 residents who are supporting a great and vibrant street life and safety on our streets with eyes on the streets too. And so we've come a long way in our downtown. And one of the things that I think is very much a work in progress still that you mentioned is really seeing downtown as the crossroads of innovation activity for this region. And the intersection of the train infrastructure coming together, the river, the beautiful downtown that already exists, and our post-secondary institutions and our major health institutes really do form a little bit of an innovation corridor that runs from up around NAIT. And I had a great conversation with the new president of NAIT about all the exciting things that they're working on that are part of, whether it's transition to a lower carbon future, or whether it's opportunities for people to reskill into working in the AI economy. There are so many exciting things for the nation's largest polytechnic, kind of at the north end of that corridor, to continue to play an essential role in. You roll past the Royal Alec and that whole complex there, and the really exciting things that are happening in rehab med and technology and medical devices out of the Glenrose. You come through downtown, obviously, which we'll talk about, but then you carry on. And a few minutes later, you're across the river at the University of Alberta, obviously a centerpiece. But I don't want to skip over Norquest, which is under Carolyn Campbell's able leadership now, a key player in this, and also a new partnership announced yesterday with Amy on reskilling people to work in the AI and machine learning space. And then MacEwan, which as our downtown university has a critical role to play as well in all of this. And so we don't always stop as a city to think about all of those assets and how they contribute to the competitiveness of our city. But whether it's the raw talent that investors are looking for to make sure are there when they want to grow their company, to the companies that are already there that people want to be close to, like Google DeepMind and AltaML and some of the other incumbents in the machine learning and AI space, or whether it's some of the things we've done for a long time at Enterprise Square through Tech Edmonton with our partners at the University of Alberta. And obviously we're reformulating a lot of our support for the innovation space, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But very exciting news yesterday, the announcement of the hiring of Catherine Warren, who's coming to us from Vancouver with a really rich pedigree in innovation and entrepreneurship to helm the newly relaunched Innovate Edmonton, focused on supporting our entrepreneurs. And that's not exclusive to downtown, but obviously so much of that vibrancy and that new economy and these new jobs are centered out of our downtown. And it's going to be part of the answer to the economic challenges that not just Edmonton faces, but Alberta faces, is really continuing to support the growth of companies in the downtown of our city who can take up some of this, once in a lifetime on sale real estate while they grow.
Wonderful. Well, a lot to consider, within that, and obviously some great indicators for the future of where we might go. And I'm glad you mentioned the Innovate Edmonton entity. We're going to get into that in just a second. And I'll go to Nicole, because Nicole, obviously, you're co-founder, co-CEO of AltaML. It's hard to go a day right now without hearing about a fantastic new partnership that you're involved in to support business in their adoption of machine learning and really fostering innovation. So out of that, in addition to the work that you're doing within your company, you've also been selected to join the board of directors for Innovate Edmonton. And so obviously we're just getting off the ground. Mayor Iveson mentioned the hiring of the CEO just announced yesterday. But in what ways do you think the downtown community can contribute to and even benefit from this new entity?
Thanks, Nick. That's quite the introduction. I appreciate you inviting me to join the panel. As far as the Innovation Edmonton group, I think now that we've got our CEO in place, and I have to tell you, we were so thrilled yesterday to finally be able to announce it. Obviously, those on the board have known this is coming and been trying to be tight-lipped, but that's hard when you've got such an amazing candidate coming forward. The mandate of the organization is to support Edmonton's evolving ecosystem and generate new growth. And so the plans that we're working on are to streamline that ecosystem brand. What is Edmonton's innovation ecosystem? What does it look like? And how can we best support all the stakeholders? For myself, obviously, one of the things I'm personally passionate about is the support for entrepreneurs. So I'll be bringing that aspect to the board. Um, but I think the biggest thing that others can do to contribute is reach out to those board members, reach out to Catherine Morin, and have conversations, because we don't know everything there is to know. And in order to really create that best brand for Edmonton, we need to hear all of the different stakeholders and understand where they're coming from.
Wonderful. Well, I think it's such an important piece in terms of that proactive reach out. I mean, this is the storming and then the norming phase with this new organization. And I think downtown has historically really been that hub of connection. And so, fantastic to see that we're going to be grounded here in some of those conversations, and looking forward to seeing how the business community can engage within that. Tom, you're part of that community. You're very much invested here downtown, but obviously you're the president and business operations and the COO of Oilers Entertainment Group, and that comes after various different stints with the Senators, the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and similar roles. You were brought in to lead the development and activation of the ICE district. And that includes the operation of Rogers Center, Rogers Place, with capacity upwards of 20,000 people a night. Obviously, COVID-19 threw a bit of a wrinkle into that, and yet your organization was able to pivot to take on a new opportunity with the NHL playoffs, albeit in a bubble. Can you just walk us through that a little bit? Tell us about the innovations really that contributed to that mass transformation of the ICE district in such a short time.
Well, first of all, Nick, thanks for having me here. I joined the organization, I think it was June of 19, and for the first 10 months, things were going real well. ICE District was just coming on stream. Fantastic partnership with the city, and thank you to the mayor and everyone at the city. It's really become the model of how it's done now. And Rogers Place is one of the greatest arenas in the world. It's just a spectacular facility, and the whole thing is just something else. It's just coming on stream. The team was playing pretty well. Our business was going, was tracking on plan, and all of a sudden March happened, and the world changed for all of us. So here we are, and you know what? We're going to be looking at this in the rearview mirror in a year or something. We're not sure what, but and it'll all be a distant memory, and we can get back to doing what we do. But in the meantime, it's created an extraordinary challenge for everybody. ICE District is something else, and there's been similar forms of it in Los Angeles and Toronto and Dallas. And I really think the mayor and our owner, who has bet so big on this downtown, have got it right, and we're in the process of perfecting the concept now. I'm a real believer, that arenas, they're kind of like the town center in a big town, in just a bigger town, just like City Hall is, and they become very important. To the spiritual epicenter of a community, and just like a city hall is, and so Edmonton is well served. Obviously, ICE District is innovative in just what it is and what it can be to the whole epicenter that is downtown, that really creates this identity to a community. And so once we get past the short-term thing and figure out how we all weather this storm together. This city is really set up for big things in the future. I really believe that. The bubble was something else. It was one of those, I was about to say it's a once in a lifetime experience for somebody in my industry, but we're about to do it again for the World Juniors. So it's a twice in a lifetime, I guess. It was one of those things. It became an extraordinary marketing opportunity for the city and the province, because we became it had global reach. And it was successful because its primary objective was to make sure that everybody stayed safe, players and anybody involved with it, and that happened. So, so let's hope we don't have to do it again. We want to get playing hockey again pretty soon here, and hopefully that's going to happen sometime in the new year.
Well, and I think, what came of that was such a testament to your organization and all your partners' ability to do this innovative approach, but do it so safely, right? And I think that's kind of a key consideration in everything we're trying to do right now as we're adapting, as we're innovating under these new circumstances. So congrats on everything you approached there. I did want to post something out to both Tom and Nicole here, because each of your organizations is heavily invested in our downtown. And really just curious, what is it that keeps you grounded in downtown Edmonton? And what does it contribute to your organization's growth, just being a part of this community? Maybe Nicole, you can take a stab at that, Tom, and follow suit.
Sure. Before we were downtown, we were deep in the south. It was close to our house. It made sense for my husband and I to locate our office there. But what we found is we were commuting downtown once at least, or sometimes twice a day, to meet with our partners, because this is where our partners are. This is where the organizations we want to work with are located. And then on top of that, our poor team, most of them live downtown or near the university, and they would have to get to the very deep south, which transit doesn't really go that well in that direction. And so they had one person who had a car, and he would drive around, and he was referred to as the data science taxi. He would drive around and pick up everyone in the morning to drive to our office. So our team was growing rapidly, but even once we filled that car, we knew we had to get downtown. So we transitioned downtown very quickly. What's been awesome is the flexibility of the landlords downtown. We worked with Epic on our space, and they were incredibly flexible to allow our company, the flexibility we need when we have unknown growth plans. We had no idea how big we were going to be, and they've been incredible for us. And the other part that, because of where we're located, we're close to that 104th Street vibrancy. That is just such a huge attractor for our team. We love being down there and love meeting people and connecting with people in that area.
Fantastic. Well, and I think you hit it on the head with that idea of the resident base. I think some people forget that when it comes to just purely the neighborhoods within Edmonton, downtown is actually second highest in the residency based, and Oliver right beside us is the largest. So a huge group of residents here. Tom, any thoughts from your perspective?
Well, I guess building on the comment I made earlier, the arena is a part of the center of the community. And in fact, there was a history of arenas built in the 90s that were built outside of the community, out in the burbs somewhere. And those generally were the ones that were less successful. And, our teams, the name of the city is on the crest of the jersey. We are about the community and just important to so many people. This is where the community congregates, or one of the places they congregate. There's a public square for people to congregate. It is part of the downtown. It has to be.
Absolutely. Well, I think what we're certainly appreciating more now than ever is the importance of place. And while we need to be a bit creative and sometimes cautious in how we engage with public places, private places right now, I don't think that importance is going away. And as we move through this state of COVID and beyond, I think that's going to be even more crucial. Mayor Iveson, I want to come back to you because when we're talking about the sense of place, how it's certainly important for businesses that the community that they choose to reside in is clean, is safe, is accessible, and is well maintained. And we all know that COVID-19 has put significant stress on the city of Edmonton in terms of the fiscal reality that we find ourselves in. So maybe you just talk more so about the innovative approaches that you see the city adopting to address the needs of the downtown community through this period of budget deliberation and beyond.
Well, thanks, Nick. I think we've worked really well with partners because the city and government can't solve all the problems of the world on their own. So it's only in partnership. And I think the DBA, as one of our key business improvement areas, has been a really important partner in this basic question of cleanliness by in turn partnering with social agencies to create employment programs for vulnerable folks to find employment by helping to spruce up downtown. And so I think there's a runway for lots more of those kinds of innovative partnerships to be explored. And I think that has helped. In terms of the city's core responsibilities, we have taken some steps to prioritize cleaning, street plowing and street cleaning, litter collection, et cetera, in our own right, within our service standards. And those are standards that are less likely to be cut in some of our efforts right now to bring the budget in at a 0% tax increase. There will be some cuts because there are obviously other inflationary pressures and COVID cost pressures that we're balancing out. So to get to zero requires some pain, but I don't think it's going to be pain that's going to come at the expense of any of our business districts, where if anything, we are bending over backwards to support businesses with our economic recovery grants, which many businesses have taken advantage of to help pay for PPE or plexi or pivoting to online, whatever their business needs in order to try to stay open, stay competitive in light of this. So the tax measures, the grant measures, the basic cleanliness measures, all that's important. But I think one of the other significant challenges that we've seen in not just downtown, but in many of our business districts has been the challenges with social disorder and homelessness, which we've been working on for a long time with many partners. And we've housed over 10,000 people over the last decade of our work to end homelessness. The challenge is the new supply of people becoming homeless. And downtown Edmonton is not just our city's inner city, it's really Northern Alberta's inner city. And so we bear an outsized burden trying to support vulnerable people here. And that's why we need so much help from senior orders of government to adequately house people in order to break those cycles of social disorder that are so challenging for business and an impediment to investment. And so we'll continue to advocate for that. And I think we're making some big headway as a result of COVID because I think the challenges of homelessness are even starker in a pandemic. So we've seen the federal government move faster on this file after moving a fair ways in their first mandate with the National Housing Strategy. But now with their Rapid Housing Initiative, I think we're seeing some significant progress there. I had a good conversation with the Premier this morning about the province's role in helping to make that housing paid for by the feds successful by ensuring that the right kind of services are embedded in it for people to stay housed and not fall back into a more challenging situation without a home. Where that social disorder becomes an impact to the streets, becomes an impact for demand for policing, becomes an impact to healthcare and justice, and frankly drives a lot of cost for us compared to the preventative solution of supporting people with adequate housing. So we're going to continue to press on that so hard because we know that social disorder and cleanliness challenge for downtown is an impediment to business and has become a little bit more significant for a variety of reasons during COVID. That's why we've also acted to use some of the Safe Restart dollars that we secured from provincial and federal governments to establish temporary accommodations at the convention center to try to give people a 24/7 safe space in partnership with a number of the agencies who do this work so very well. To give people an alternative to encampments and back alleys, which frankly, in a country as wealthy as this, in spite of the pandemic, really is an unacceptable condition for any Canadian to live in. So we'll continue to push on that, and the business community's support has been instrumental in moving the federal government and provincial government. So we'll look for all your continued support in that press to ultimately end homelessness, which I still believe is an achievable goal. But even a substantial decrease in it in the coming months here would be very, very good for business as well.
Well, undoubtedly, and I think that's where certainly within the downtown, it's been as a consequence, I think, of some of those partnerships that you started off in your commentary about that. give an opportunity for us to get very creative and hopefully find some innovative solutions. And one, I'll mention because it's involved the DBA as well as the City of Edmonton and Reach Council for Safe Communities has been the launch of a new street outreach unit with qualified individuals from Boyle Street Community Services, which is out there actively engaging with our vulnerable communities and trying to find ways to support them into some of those supports that you mentioned. But clearly this is a very important consideration within our community and something where we undoubtedly need to band together and support each other and support those who certainly need it while we look ahead to hopefully a brighter future. I want to circle then a little bit back to, maybe some associated risks, and maybe we've talked a little bit about it already, and get some perspective from all of you about, any key risks you see that you think we collectively or individually need to mitigate as we seek to foster really a hub of innovation downtown. And that's where that innovation, could be driven from businesses like any of yours or from within the city or collectively together. But are there some risks in what we're trying to do here that we actively need to band together and mitigate? Let's start with you, Tom, and then maybe flip over to Nicole and finish with the mayor.
Well, it's hard to imagine a risk bigger than the one we're all facing right now, right? I mean, ultimately, downtowns, people want to be downtown. So what we've got to do is figure out a way that they can be there and businesses can be open as safely and as quickly as possible. I mean, that is the risk in front of all of us right now, and anything else is pale in comparison. I mean, the guts of it are there. It is a terrific center of a community. Some of the things the mayor was talking about before with the thread from Nate all the way down. I mean, the parts are there. We just gotta get to a place now where it can start to happen and start to breathe.
Cool. Thoughts?
I mean, I think the mayor touched on it, but safety is really the biggest risk right now. I mean, someone recently said to me, if it's safe for our daughters, it's safe for everyone. And that really resonated with me because right now, I don't think I'd feel comfortable with my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter walking on her own in certain parts of downtown. There's small changes that can be made, even as little as the, in hoarding. As a woman, I'm nervous to walk into hoarding because it's a bit of a blind spot in there. If it was full of light and there was some, decent lighting in there, that would make a big difference to me. Just small things can be done to make it feel more safe and also attractive, right? The litter and the situation that we've got that has exacerbated because of COVID, which is completely understandable. Once we're back downtown, what can we do to make it more attractive? The light displays or the graffiti art or painting those green electrical boxes with local artists, just small things that really make you feel like there's been, some thought put into making our downtown incredibly attractive. I think the other risk is that we go too far and try and make downtown everything for everyone. Downtown needs to be unique and have its own drivers to go there. Everybody wants to go downtown for concerts and hockey. Everybody wants to go downtown to hit local restaurants and unique shopping options. Let's not try and put a big box store down here. We can get those everywhere. Let's make downtown that unique place to go.
Perspective. Mayor Iveson, thoughts on that?
Well, I completely agree with both of the prior points about the challenges of the pandemic. I do hope that there'll be a lot of pent-up demand, and people forget that the Roaring 20s which was one of the golden ages of cities ever, fell right on the heels of the last great pandemic. And I think pent-up demand to be out and amongst each other was part of that. So I think there'll be a renaissance for cities here after the vaccine is widely available and people want to get back to concerts, want to go back to the theater and so on and so forth, and just want to be out and be social. So, but to Nicole's point, I completely agree with everything she said about safety and applying a gender-based analysis plus lens to looking at public spaces and looking at construction disruption and looking at the planning and design of spaces more intentionally with a view to safety, particularly for women and girls, is critically important for us to creating a welcome downtown that's investable, that's where people want to work and where people want to recreate and where people want to live. So I completely agree with all of those points. And this might seem a little bit trite, but so I wanted to be really clear, this is layered on to excellent points that have been made. But I'm really worried about our food scene, which is one of the, and DBA does great work with the Downtown Dining Week, and we're going to have to get very, very creative because I know that our restaurant and hospitality scene, which punches way above its weight here in Edmonton, is really, really struggling, as with other places. That's not unique to Edmonton. So it's a variation on what Tom was saying, but that sector is so critical to the vibrancy of downtown, to that 24/7 experience, whether it's lunch for the employees or whether it's, you know, for Nicole's folks who live downtown. It's one of the reasons why. And so I want to make sure, and we're giving some special attention right now to what kind of support we might be able to give that sector in particular, because in other parts of the country where folks have been fully shut down by medical orders, they're eligible for maximum federal aid up to, for example, 90% of rent subsidy and the maintenance of their employees on the wage subsidy. Because we don't have a full lockdown here of those businesses, they're not eligible for the maximum aid. So we're working hard right now to try to figure out how we can support that hospitality sector in particular, which has been so hard hit, because I want them to be there when that pent-up demand comes and people want to be back out in their city, because that food scene is one of the best parts of what's happening in our downtown. And it is, when people get here, one of the reasons why they will want to stay. So I want to hold on to that. And the risks to that scene are of grave concern to me right now.
Well, absolutely. And I think that's where, we appreciate, we really do have the strength and world-class dining here within our downtown community. What has been truly inspiring, I think, for us as we've been engaging with our restaurant businesses is to see that level of creativity, that innovation that's come through, and starts within the summer with support of the city and the extended patios. Now quickly, those organizations and businesses were able to pivot to provide some of those alternative options. What we saw within Downtown Dining Week, a couple of weeks back was tremendous, just in, crafting these unique menus and then providing takeout options and curbside pickup for those that might have not had that as a norm. Really, I think gave such great opportunities for people to engage in different ways. And so I think, really seeing the restaurant segment leading the charge when it comes to a lot of the innovation that is required right now, but certainly needing additional support, not only from the likes of the public sector, but from all of us as consumers who, really still stand to take advantage of all this tremendous value for those who are fighting so hard to keep those businesses open and alive. I did want to kind of acknowledge just on the safety considerations, certainly that Nicole has raised. And again, this need to kind of come together and get creative with the deployment of existing resources, reassess, other resources in terms of what might come to bear. But I think good signs emerging from the work of the city with the peace officer segment in particular to provide incremental support, and lots of those social agencies thinking how they can more creatively band together, hopefully with the support of additional funds from other orders of government to make that a success in the long term. In building off of those risks and maybe just sort of flipping it around, I think I've already heard a little bit about what the greatest strengths of the downtown community are. And really in circumstances like this, I think we want to build on those strengths, double down where we can. And so curious to kind of get all of your perspectives on what is already in existence that we can leverage, that we can build on, not only to get through COVID, but to be stronger as we push through these times. And so maybe I'll go back to Tom and then follow with Nicole and the mayor. And any thoughts in terms of the greatest strengths of the downtown community we can leverage?
That's a tough one. I mean, I agree totally with the mayor that I think once we get out of this, there is going to be a renaissance. There's an old saying about you never waste a good crisis or whatever it is. And the innovation and entrepreneurship that exists in this city and this province is going to react to that. And so, it's going to be a challenge in the short term, adapt and be flexible. And it's been 8 months. I think it feels like about 8 years. Like we've had to change gears every 15 minutes. But weathering that storm, ultimately coming out the other side, it is going to be that innovation and people. That is probably the biggest asset here. That is going to be able to take advantage of that renaissance. We're watching market research all the time. The market research is very clear. People, once this is over, people want to get back together. They're going to want to get out. They're going to want to do things. They're going to want to get back together with other people, but they want to do it when it's safe. And so our job is going to be ready for that. Make sure it is safe. Make sure that the experience is even better than they remember when they stopped doing it the last time, and we'll just be fine. But it's a matter of time to get there. People, that's the asset.
Cool.
I think one of the other assets we have downtown is the growth in the housing that we have seen over the last decade, that now it's a place where people want to live and have the option of places to live. And so it doesn't at 5 o'clock, the downtown doesn't shut down, which has really changed the downtown a lot. So that's a strength that we need to continue to make it a place where people do want to live. It's our city as well as our downtown is very progressive and fiercely entrepreneurial, very pro-business. And so because of that, it's important to have lots of opportunities to connect, whether it's the best coffee shops or the best restaurants or, the pedway, even running into people in the pedway. And we have those things. And so as we come back after the pandemic, there will be that pent up demand, and we need to foster those opportunities we do have downtown to connect. What's great about Edmonton is we are big enough to be a major player, but we're small enough where businesses, small and large, can succeed. And our downtown is a big part of that. If you are downtown and you walk through the pedway system, you will run into someone you know. That is just how it works. And that is what's great about downtown.
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor.
So I couldn't agree more with human capital and the concentration of that human capital in wonderful spaces, both public and great office space that people have built over time, and that it's the mixing of those that is the secret sauce for every great downtown. One of the things that I want to add, because I know it's a little bit controversial sometimes, is that all roads lead to downtown. And some of the work that we've done to improve traffic safety so that people can not just be in the pedways, but be out of on the streets in downtown and feel more comfortable on the street. That's another tangible component of safety. Also, people like to rag on the bike lanes until they get a bike and try it. And the number of folks I know who work downtown who've made that choice and feel healthier and appreciate community, and also bump into people on on the bike lanes as a major thoroughfare as well. That is something that younger employees are looking for in their workplaces. And so it comes with some frustration for me to hear people continuing to rag on them when they are table stakes for companies to locate and for talent to choose to be in a place. And so I think that infrastructure is critical. And then the big one, which also comes with some pain during construction, and we're just about there with phase 1 of the Valley Line, but we're just about to go there with phase 2, is that, there is a reason we have fought so hard to effectively double the amount of LRT connectivity in this city in the time that I've been here, which is because all of those lines leading into downtown and all of the mini downtowns and town centers that'll be built up around them will make the city not only more fiscally efficient, not only more environmentally responsible in terms of lower emissions, give people more affordable lifestyles, but every one of those people will be within 10 or 15 minutes of downtown. And that's why the convergence at sort of Union Station here on Churchill Square of all of those different rapid transit lines will be transformationally empowering for downtown, so that people can still get here to work or to go to the theater or to go to the hockey game. Even as this region grows to 2 or 3 million people, they'll still be able to do that quickly and not be stuck in traffic. The cities that have grown like that and not built that rapid transit infrastructure, their downtowns start to fail because they don't have the connectivity to get people in and out by alternate modes. So I'll continue to defend those investments because I think they'll be essential to the competitiveness of our downtown going forward, and good for business to the extent that they bring customers and workforce more easily to the center, where we want to see more of precisely what Tom and Nicole were just describing already happens in our downtown, but we want to go even further with it.
Absolutely. I think what we heard over the course of the summer in undertaking a research project to really sort of assess what are the drivers of community resiliency that are well established. One of those core drivers really was interconnectivity and providing a variety of different options for people to be able to come together in various different ways. And particularly within a young city like we have here, looking at some of those alternative forms of transportation being increasingly critical to ensuring that they find their way downtown and continue to have some of those creative collisions that I think was underscored in a lot of what I just heard there. So
I meet some of the neatest people when I take the train to City Hall. So partly because they come and talk to the mayor, but those creative collisions occur on transit too.
Well, and I think what we're continuing to hear and has been reminded of in the void that maybe has existed in some respect because of COVID-19 is just how important having sort of these opportunities for connection really are, and how that shapes the culture of our organizations. I want to pivot a little bit into our sponsors who have posed some questions for the group here. That's one of the perks of being a supporting member of this event. And one of them from Kingston Ross Pasnak that I'll pose to everyone here goes to recognizing that one major challenge responding to COVID-19 is trying to assess the new normal as it relates to how we work from the office, from home, from both, and whether that's now and into the future. Maybe what is your advice, and I'll go to all three of you here, for companies that are trying to adapt to new working environment, as well as any success stories maybe you've noted or within your own organizations that have worked really well through the course of this time? We'll change it up, and I'll start with you, Mr. Mayor, and we'll circle back.
Well, we've been working so hard to digitize many aspects of what the city does, and that, whether it's permit applications, which are now online and virtual, there is less and less actual paper to push around, and that means faster turnaround times. It also means we can look at analytics within our overall database and see where are the choke points in our process, or where is there red tape that we could eliminate to help provide more speedy response response for people. So my point though is that digitization, thank goodness we were doing that, because that meant that a lot more of the business that the city transacts could be transacted more virtually and with more work at home. So the pivot to work at home was easier for this city than for lots of organizations and even lots of other municipalities. But that comes with a lot of ergonomic challenges. People are now using different devices and different configurations. We're starting to see some issues or OH&S issues around people's kind of hacked together home offices and other things. And I think there could be some longer term issues. So thinking about supporting our employees to be successful, productive, and safe and comfortable in their work at home and is one part of the current challenge. And I think the other interesting opportunity will be people who will have enjoyed aspects of that and may expect that there will be more opportunities to do that in the future, even post-vaccine. I think workplaces will change, but I think within workplaces, and there will be, as we've talked about, this thirst and this pent-up demand to get back into community with your colleagues, that even still workplaces are going to change and people are going to want to use their workspace differently than they have in the past. So I think there'll be a lot of office reconfigurations after this. And given that space in downtown is a little more economical right now, I hope that even as some of those things change, that folks will be able to take advantage of some of those lower prices right now, spread out a little bit to give their employees the kind of space that they will want and need in order to thrive, especially after being used to working in their sweatpants for the last year.
Nothing wrong with a couple of days in sweatpants, but
I've done some National Press Corps events with suit on the top and sweatpants on the bottom.
Yeah,
so
we won't ask you to stand up right now, but
I got jeans on right now, so I'm at the office at least.
Nicole, any additional thoughts there?
Well, sweatpants are welcome at AltaML, whether you're in the office or not. So that's pretty awesome. But as far as trying to adapt, we were one of the lucky few where everybody already worked on laptops. Everybody could work from home when they wanted to. We said on Friday, we're transitioning to virtual, and on Monday, we were virtual. There was no hiccups with that. But the area that we're struggling with, that we've had to do a lot of work with, is the mental health side of not having those connections, not being downtown. The majority of our team is desperate to be back in the office, but what's holding them back is the feeling of safety, not only downtown, but within the office. How, what is the possibility of them getting COVID here? And so we've done a lot of work on communication of what it looks like to be in the office. Obviously right at this moment, we've closed down the office again, but once we reopen, when the restrictions ease, we actually are going to be doing a video of just what it looks like, how many common areas that you would have to touch. Luckily, we built our office in the middle of COVID, so we could make some changes along the way. We've got some hand swipes to open the bathroom door. We've got all kinds of things we were able to adapt to. And so just providing that feeling like my workplace, they're doing absolutely everything possible to keep me safe, I think will be a big part. And a big part for us as well is we're not forcing anybody to come back. We don't have to, and so we're not. You only will have to come back to the office when you feel safe to do so. And I think that eases everyone's mind a bit, that they will always have that option.
Well, I think it's very interesting in terms of how important that perception piece is too, and be able to kind of visualize it, be it through a video or hear firsthand from others who have come down and engaged and embraced some of the creativity that's gone into making for safe environments, I think does ease that transition, and hopefully will support people to continue to get the value from coming downtown and engaging in these office environments, recognizing it does need to look a little bit different, certainly in the short term, if not in the long term. Tom, thoughts on that?
The world is going to change. We know that. I'm not sure we know the extent of it yet. Sure that, we're all working from home, and some of that's good, but then some of that will continue. Our business is a little bit different in that, we are in the public assembly business. We're in the business of putting 20,000 people into close quarters and, sharing sweat and screaming together and, all those kind of things. So, how our industry is going to change. We're still just getting our arms around how is consumer behavior going to change? What are employee expectations going to look like? Customer expectations? How's the food and beverage industry change? What capital improvements are required to change the arena? We're just getting our arms around that now. The good news is we know people want to get back to it. We know they're going to want to get back together and, and watch Elton John together, or watch the Oilers win a cup together, and all those things in between. But it's going to be different. And so we just got to figure out how that's going to work, and make sure that we do it in a safe and in even better kind of way. And so, I mentioned earlier the, Never Waste a Good Crisis book, or whatever it was. We're really trying to look at this as an opportunity. How do we become better as an organization? How do we become more efficient? How do we do less with more? How do we make the experience even better? Even though it might require temperature checks at the gates, or whatever the, the protocols are ultimately going to be. How do we make it a better, more interesting, safer, more valuable experience? That's going to be a fun challenge.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're seeing it play out in so many ways already here. I've been amazed with some of the stories that we've collected as COVID sort of landed in its first punch. Was, people and businesses knocking out walls to create more space for social distancing, obviously trying to integrate in any capacity outdoor environments and extended patios, things of that nature, or trying to make that a winter thing and encouraging everyone to come out and enjoy some winter patios that we certainly have downtown right now. But that's where I think, as we've already heard, some flexibility within the landlords and those who actively manage these office environments. I think it's a wonderful time in some respect to think creatively around that. And we're seeing people come to the table and trying to reimagine those spaces, not only for now, but for the future, to underscore some of this value that I think we're all appreciating when it comes to downtown. More spaces to connect, more spaces to foster culture and collaboration, which I think is a key driver of business success. And so I think out of this, certainly some sense that we very well could come out stronger with a downtown that is primed to really foster a lot of that innovation, which we hopefully will only see more of. We're running down to the end here, but a couple last questions from the sponsors. One that I'll pose is, what is one action or project, if taken right now, do you think would be most meaningful in supporting innovation and growth in our downtown community? An action or project? Anyone want to jump at that? We'll leave it open.
I'll take it.
All right.
I think the biggest thing we can do is all start saying the same thing about what our downtown is, what Edmonton is, what our innovation ecosystem is. We need to get consistent messaging so that everybody knows what's down here, rather than, I'm tired of the Deadmonton. Let's get rid of the Deadmonton and let's look at all of the things we do have downtown and what we're proud of, and all start saying the same thing.
Well said. Anybody else want to take a stab at that?
Well, I completely agree with Nicole's take on that, and I think we've still got a little ways to go with all the different business organizations and all the different economic development organizations, but I think the raw material is there. So we'll keep trying to herd all of those cats. 7 years in, haven't quite got there, but it's I think the pieces of the puzzle are there. The thing I would add, sort of further to what I was saying about social disorder issues and homelessness and perceptions around safety, safety, is that I think one of the most significant things we could do is continue to work to press the feds to scale up their rapid housing initiative, to make available more units, which they're prepared to pay essentially 100 cents of the cost of. Usually the federal government would be saying, well, we want the provincial government to partner with us 50-50 and so on and so forth. The feds are in a position now as part of stimulus and as part of COVID response to just take a leadership position. Provinces just don't have the fiscal room, any province, to match the federal government's power of the purse and fiscal might here. But for this to work, the province does need to commit to working to, within their jurisdiction, embed the support services for addictions and mental health and cultural supports for people for the housing to be successful and for the people to stay housed. And that money, in my view, is already in the system, in the justice system and in the health system as it is. So it's really a reallocation commitment rather than a new spend commitment as far as all the modeling and data shows. But I think and the business improvement areas have been great, and other business voices have been really helpful in making this case to the province, because I do believe that if we can substantially reduce the chronic homelessness that we're seeing in our community, that over the next year, while we're also dealing with this pandemic, that that pent-up demand for our downtown, both from a consumer side and an investor side, will encounter a safer and more welcoming downtown for everyone if we can deal with this housing crisis together. So business community pressure on decision makers at the province in particular, I think we've got the feds covered at this point, would make a huge difference. And I mean right now, actually, if you're in conversations with folks at the province on this, please press on this, because it's a key priority for the city. And I absolutely think it will be transformationally positive for all of our business districts, but especially downtown, to put a huge dent in homelessness and social disorder as part of the recovery from this pandemic.
Tom, any passion projects or initiatives that add into that?
You know what, I didn't have an answer to it, but I really like Nicole's answer. You know, you gotta know what you are. You gotta keep it simple. You gotta be able to communicate that. And you know, it's interesting, before March happened, we were seeing unbelievable energy in the Ice District area. The hotel was full, the lobby bar, you couldn't get a seat. The building would empty out. People were staying in Fort Hall. I mean, it you know, it was extraordinary energy there, and that starts with having a story to tell and being able to communicate that. And you know, then people start living there. They work downtown, they stay downtown. Live, work, play, stay. That's what we've been focused on, and having a story to tell and being consistent in how you tell that story. And we've got a little bit of a lull in the action right now, so we can be ready for that when it's time to start talking again.
Certainly, and I think what we can appreciate is that, you know, cities everywhere, downtowns everywhere are experiencing a lot of similar challenges, and yet what we can appreciate as well is that our downtown, while it's, you know, a neighborhood, it doesn't seem all that big. Lots of different elements to it, and within that, I think there are those key strengths, those key facets that we can continue to sort of highlight and champion. If you come downtown and walk Jasper Avenue right now, it's astonishing, the beauty of those vibrant lights that we're seeing. Obviously, we've had a chance to light up the tree, a 77-footer on Churchill Square, and extending beyond that this year with our holiday light up to a whole bunch of lighting projections that we'll be bringing online over the next month. So still lots to see, still lots to do. Obviously, we need to do it a little bit differently in the short term, but continuing to champion that message of some of the energy that's still going on, I think, is crucial, and that there are still these incredible businesses downtown that need all of our support more than ever. And what a great opportunity within the context of the holidays to shop local and dine local and to engage local in any way that you can in support of this community. Last question, you know, just, and we'll keep it brief, you know, in tying this off, any other advice you would give to the downtown business community right now as we navigate this pandemic, or as we look ahead to a world hopefully with a vaccine? Anything short and sweet that you want to land with the group who is observing here today?
hang in there. This is hard. We're Edmonton and we've got this.
I love it. Anyone else?
Well, I think Nicole should run for mayor, clearly, but besides besides that, I would say, we have some of the region's most significant employers, but also great mom and pop businesses, the whole gamut. And Edmonton's business community really is that diversity. Lots of small and medium enterprises here too. So to everyone who's here, I think there's obviously the challenges of reassuring staff in a time of great uncertainty like this, but really encouraging, even if people are working from home, that those neighborhood businesses in the core of our city here that people enjoy patronizing outside of a pandemic, those businesses really need our support. And so as you're thinking about where to shop or where to order takeout from right now, consider supporting those businesses, especially downtown, because the base load of demand that's normally there to support them with so many people working from home just isn't right now. So wherever you are in the city, the message back to your teams to shop local, especially in the neighborhood where your office is, so that those businesses are there and the families that depend on that employment, who are also ultimately your customers in an economy like this too. So we really do need to band together. So that shop local message, I think, comes naturally to a group like the Downtown Business Association, but just encouragement to employers and leaders to encourage your own staff to do that as well, to keep their neighborhood vibrant, especially our downtown.
Tom, last word?
My favorite expression, it's always darkest before the dawn. And this will pass. We're going to get past this. We saw the 2008 crash, 9/11. We'll be through this. And it's about being patient, hanging in there, be resilient, and adapt to change. And we'll come out of this better the other side by a long shot.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all three of you for taking the time today to offer some insights, some great advice for those who are certainly wrestling with this pandemic, but with a mind to the future. And I think that's what we've heard here loud and clear, is that we have a downtown community and leaders like yourselves who are invested in seeing us come through this stronger, and hopefully offering some insight by way of how we can work together to make the heart of our city the heart of our recovery. So I want to thank everybody for attending here today. Looking forward to continuing to work with you all and giving you all the best of luck and health in the days ahead. Thank you.